L is for the way you look at me. O is for the face I hope you give me. V is for the pills you want me to take. And E is hoping your hope that I end this song.
You ruined that
Love.
song. I love that song. Don't mess it up.
I know, I ruined it for you. But being that Valentine's Day is 2 days away, a holiday that we love to celebrate together. We talked about that in previous episodes on Valentine's Day, and we won't refresh them. Lovely memories of floral shops gone past.
Mm-hmm.
But we still celebrate and enjoy it. Maybe you'll get a surprise trip this year. But let's not focus on the amore love. When the moon hits your eye like
Is this a musical
giant
podcast now?
pizza pie. That's
Amore.
amore. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the love. The love that we have changed in. The love that we see in a different way now. We saw it one way when we were in Christian.
Are we talking
faith.
about marital, like relationship kind of romantic love? Or are we talking, what kind of love are we talking about?
I'm setting up everything with my soliloquy here.
Sorry, I'm curious. I have no idea what's going on. I just show up.
So let's talk about the love of humankind, the love of man for everything. Because what we kind of will get into today on this episode is just looking at what love was and how we defined it, how we put it in the wrong perspective a lot of times. And it got misused and mistranslated and misdefined so many times in what we did in our faith, and how after deconstruction and realizing what love truly was and looking at what love of self was and moving on and growing from there, what love truly became. So maybe I've been struck in the old booty with a little guy in a diaper shot me in the ass with an arrow. But I'm full of love today, and I want to get it out. I want to spread my love to all the people.
You don't want that.
Spread it for everyone. Just drape them in my love.
Okay, can we move on?
Douse them in my love.
I forgot my water.
Well, Candy's going to be dry today as we
Pause.
talk
No,
this
I'll be right
episode
back.
on Drop the Stones.
Hi, I'm Candy,
And I'm Dan,
and you're listening to Drop the Stones.
a weekly podcast brought to you by FTD Flowers. You remember watching football games on Sunday
I don't think you can
20 years
say
ago?
that.
No, I said STD Flowers. A thing that gets passed along a lot this time of year.
Oh,
The flowering infections.
gross. Gross,
from-
Dan.
Unprotected celebrations on Valentine's Day. VD with STD. Our flowers are the best.
It's not. Flowers aren't flowers. Gross.
Well, if this is any idea what this episode is going to be like, it could be a wild ride tonight. So, but love. Let's define the problem.
The problem of love.
And then we will look for solutions to the problem and give solutions and a cure. Love, back when we were deep in the faith, deep in Christendom, we thought we had love, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And we thought we had true love and knew what true love was. We knew what agape was.
We thought we did, yeah. We thought we knew unconditional love,
Yes.
or at least the one who calls himself unconditional love, right?
Well, we had all the loves defined. You know, you have agape love,
Eros,
eros love,
which is romantic love.
and philos
Philos, yeah.
love. So,
I think there's one more too, actually.
yeah, there was another one.
I can't remember what it is.
So you had romantic, brotherly, and godly love.
Yeah.
And we defined all these things and we thought we understood what love truly was, but our practices really did not show that 100%. Because I think as we look at where Christian nationalism is today and what it's become from, it is not as they to continue the musical, they will know we are Christians by our love. By
Yeah.
our love.
Yeah. They Christian nationalists are not known by their love.
No, they're known by a lot of other things.
Which Jesus said you will know if someone follows him by their love. So if
Yes.
they do not, and so what they do instead of being love, they just redefine love.
Yeah. And we had a perfect example of that where we asked one of our pastors what love was.
Mhm.
And we've mentioned this many a time, but it's always good to bring it back up because it was a true defining. I think it encapsulates really what we see today from Christendom of what love is.
Mhm.
And that is
Doing what is right in light of eternity.
so pointing out the sin and judgment because that's going to
Well, let's just even back up. Doing what is right. Right is so subjective.
true.
Christians don't even agree on what's right and what's wrong. Some think it's okay
No.
to drink or swear, and some think it's not. And some think it's okay for women to wear pants, and some think it's not. And some people think it's okay for men to have a beard, and some think it's not. So
I can have a
doing what is
beard.
right is so subjective.
I can have a beard. You don't have to wear pants. That's fine. And everything will be happy. But Valentine's
What about
Day.
me?
I said
So you get what you want. I don't want to walk around with no pants on all the time. Thank you. Especially, I would not trust you.
sad face.
Sad face.
Valentine's Day.
Okay. All right.
Trying to set the mood. So, yeah, it's very subjective. It's based on whatever your local group believes what is right.
Or
And
you personally
we're
believe
going
is
to
right.
use, yeah, and we're going to use that as our basis on whether or not you're going to get into heaven.
It's not whether the person that you're showing the love to thinks it's right or not. It's what you think is right,
Yes.
which is ridiculous, but
So,
okay. And we kind of fell for this for a
yeah,
little while.
and because you think it's right, you think that is what's going to get you into heaven. These things are right. These things are the things, the obedient path I have to take to get into heaven. And if I see things that are going against what I think is right, I need to point that out because that's the loving thing to do.
Yeah, because I don't want you to go to hell.
And honestly, it is like you've said in a few of your TikToks and talking to other people of if a Christian truly believed their faith, then they would do everything in their power.
If you literally thought the person sitting next to you was going to die and spend eternity in flames and you really love them, well, the right thing to do is to constantly be badgering them, right? To come into heaven, do absolutely anything you could to get them to believe like you believe, but they don't. But I will say that Christian nationalists, how do you explain this though? This might go against what I just said. Because Christian nationalists do it by, we'll just make the law of the land what we believe is right.
Yeah.
And they'll have to obey it, or they'll go to jail and then we'll reprogram them there.
Yeah.
Or we'll kill them and just send them straight there faster so they don't accrue more sins to suffer for.
Yes.
I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like they can reason. That's why that definition is actually awful, and it's not a biblical definition. It's a definition that was made up by that person.
It was an interpretation of that guy. Can you mute your computer audio real quick?
My computer audio.
Yeah, on
my
the
computer.
Zoom. You know how you usually mute it, so it doesn't have the echo.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Technical difficulties, and
Was
you get
it,
to catch
was
it live.
I
don't know because I don't have my headphones on.
Oh,
we'll
no,
find
so
out.
that whole first part might
I
sound
think
terrible.
we'll be all right. I think we'll be all right. But it's fixed now, folks, so don't worry about it.
No, they might not be listening anymore because if it was really annoying, I wouldn't stay and listen.
I think I did a test earlier. Hopefully it's just in the headphones because it sounded all right then. But you got 8 minutes of bad, or hopefully not. But anyways, as we continue on with love, let's do the loving thing and continue on. So that was our definition that we operated with for a long time until we left that church. I mean, we were we thought we knew what love was, and it was kind of acting on that definition without knowing that definition of we need to share the gospel with all these people that we truly care about, because why would we want them to spend eternity in there? And then we'd have great guilt and shame put along with it. And
if you didn't share, like you're in the elevator with somebody and they're minding their own business, you're minding your own business, and you get that thought.
Did you
You
hear
need
the
to be
good
sharing
news?
Jesus. Yeah, like how annoying would that be?
Yeah.
But then you feel guilt if you don't do it, which,
Yeah.
I didn't do it a
And
lot of the times.
on that point, should love, if you're doing something lovingly, should you feel guilty if you don't?
Yeah, because you
I
didn't
mean,
do what was right in light of eternity.
I
That's
mean,
why that in light of eternity has to be
yeah,
added to it.
but I'm saying there's this thing on there that, yeah, I guess there is some guilt that comes along with loving someone too if
I'm
you
not saying
neglect
like
it, but
true love isn't like controlling like
love,
that. True
true
love.
love.
But the definition that Paul gives in First Corinthians is actually not a terrible definition. Um I mean, a lot of times, sometimes there's people deconstructing. Some deconstructionists want to throw out everything, the entire Bible, but there's lots of good stuff in there
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Um, but that definition far surpasses the definition that we were given by the pastor.
yeah.
So
You're
if
talking
you want me
about
to say that definition at some point, tell me
you're
and I
talking
will.
about the Corinthians one,
Yeah,
and we'll probably dive into that. You may want to look that up and have it
I
saved.
have
'Cause-
it
okay,
on top of it, buddy.
look
All
at
done.
you, Valentine's Day on top of it. So, but that was kind of the definition, was a service and everything like this, and it didn't take into effect. And this probably won't just stay on love; it'll probably deal with a lot of the sympathetic emotions of love and empathy and compassion,
Mhm,
because that is definitely lacking in today's church. It's, if you don't agree with me and believe like me,
mhm.
then I really don't care about you a whole lot. You can burn in hell forever and you don't get to enjoy this life either if I think you are. So we're going to deport you. We're going to make you not love who you want to love. If you're LGBTQIA plus, you're not
We're gonna
anymore.
make it a crime
We're
to be
not going to, yeah,
yourself. Like no
yeah.
authenticity. You can pretend.
And we're not going to have the compassion and empathy and love for you to be able to express your love however you're called to love,
Mhm.
what your desires are, what your being is.
Yep.
There's no choice in this. This is just who you're attracted to. Um, so in these areas, they're not showing love. They're not showing compassion. And that was kind of, I think, something when we look back on was probably something we probably struggled with a little bit of, especially once we started getting involved in these other communities that we were told not to get involved in. That, how can I treat this person this way and tell them not to be who they are? And we know Christians that still to this day have told their family members, don't hang out with them. You're hanging out with all these gay people. Stop, because now you're endorsing their behavior by you being near them.
Yeah, and the only way you can kind of quote unquote be friends with them is if you're telling them their sin is evil.
Yes.
You know that, and that's not a friend. A friend loves at all times is a Bible verse too. And then we get to the question of what even is love. What really is love though? So that's what we were told at that one church at that one time, right?
Hmm.
But and we experienced love in many different ways. So we had parents that I believe my parents loved me,
Hmm.
but they didn't really know what love looked like. So to them, it was taught to them by James Dobson pretty much.
Hmm.
Like you love your child by beating them. And if you don't love them, you if you love them, you will spank them. If you don't love them,
Yeah.
you'll
Yeah. There.
you'll let them be spoiled. And we got married and started with our children. Had that thought in my head. Like that's why I started spanking. I absolutely abhorred spanking. I
Hmm.
thought it was the most terrible thing to have to do. I would always try to like be like, I'll give you a count of 3 and I'll give you a count of 3 over and over, because but they were kids. They were
Yeah.
kids. And then I would have to do the 3 swats or whatever because I love them, and that's what I would have to say to myself to get myself to do it. You
Hmm.
love your kids, you love them.
Yeah. And look at how that's warped that definition of love. Love is forcing someone into obedience
Yeah.
through.
And they expected James Dobson or some of them, like, one of the rules was
James
you
Dobson was obeying the first command.
yes, that's what I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
you were supposed to get your child to they should obey on the first command, and I remember not liking this because I don't remember if I ever tried it with the kids. But I remember thinking pretty early on, hearing that, like, okay, we're supposed to obey God on the first command, and we don't.
Yeah.
He tells us once in the Bible, and yet we still, gossip, or we whatever the sin
Yeah.
was.
And it's not teaching unconditional love, it's teaching unconditional obedience.
Yeah.
And there is a big difference. You can have an obedient kid that can be very disrespectful and not love you because of the way you treated them. You're not because you're not showing that love to
Mhm.
them. You're trying to force obedience through corporal punishment,
Yeah.
which is it a loving thing to do? I don't, that.
See, that's where we need to figure out, well, and if Jesus said, "You'll know they're my disciples by my love," then we need to figure out what the love is, or what it looks like, so we
Yeah.
can know what it is.
Oh, geez, you want to end this one already, don't you? Let's conclude this.
No. Oh, you am I jumping? No, because I can open it up too to show where
Yeah.
Christian nationalists, evangelicals, which, I mean,
Yeah.
are they the same thing? I don't know. It pretty much, Mormons can be Christian nationalists. There's Catholics that are Christian nationalists. I guess there's a
Yeah.
lot of
They all
religions
have
kind
their,
of
yeah.
linked in there.
They all have their
They don't know
sects.
that they're Christian nationalists, maybe,
Yeah.
or maybe they do, and they are okay with that title.
Yeah. Well, I think they probably do, but that's beside the point. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you want to look at what love is and what should be, you can use the Bible again and just watch the Gospels and how Jesus interacted with people.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
true.
kind
Just
of a visual representation of what love is.
because love's not really I mean, and then you have people that are not Christians, and they say love really, because they associate love with feelings, and love's not a feeling.
Mm,
Love is really, it's a almost,
an action.
it is an action, but it's also, it can include feelings. It's
Yeah.
just not isolated to
No.
feelings.
And that's the thing that I want to steer away because most times you say, "Oh, let's talk about love," and it's "Oh, I got the butterflies and
Yeah.
this is my heart pours out for you.
Yeah.
I can't be away from you for 3 seconds. Oh, you left and walked around the block. I've missed you so much. Oh, whatever. You guys get over it. The honeymoon's over.
Well, and some people,
Be a
yeah, that
crusty old
you'll see,
27-year-old
like,
married, 22-year-old mother.
you will see, people jump from, I mostly notice it in men, but I'm sure there's a lot of women that do it too, but it's like jump from relationship to relationship, especially like younger. But
Mm.
just jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, because the beginning of relationship is, there's a chemistry that's pulling you together,
Yeah,
right?
it
It's
is all
new.
them
It's
fireworks and
very, very
sparks.
new. Yes, you get the butterflies. It's new. And that's not really love. Love is something
It's the
very deep and
yeah.
really
It's
breakable. That is breakable, because that's why you can jump from,
it it's
it's
love, but
passion,
it's the
the
initial
beginning stages
it's
of
the
it,
initial
maybe.
steps of love.
Yeah.
It's the superficial.
It's the beginning steps of
Yeah.
eros love,
Yeah.
but it's not agape love. Let's just say that. It's
Yeah.
eros, it's the beginning of eros love. It maybe even is eros love. I don't know. Um Agape love, which sounds weird because it sounds so biblical or whatever, but just the kind of love that Jesus is talking about,
Yeah,
the
that's what
love that is real deep and true.
yeah, and that's what grows out of the eros love at the beginning of a relationship where you get
Well,
into
it
that.
can, because
Yeah.
eros
Well,
doesn't apply to
that's
children, your love for
no,
children.
I hope not.
No, but you can agape love them.
But
Eros can grow into
yeah,
agape, yes,
but when we're talking about relationships, that's what kind of the goal of a long-term relationship is you move past the eros. You
into
still
an
have glimpses
unconditional.
of it here and there, the little sparks light up here and there, but it gets more into the agape.
Yeah.
Um, and then sometimes it gets into the philos, and then you just get friend zoned.
True.
It either goes agape or philos, and if you're going to philos, you're
I mean, and are what's unfortunate in our language, it's all one word, but
yeah,
those are different things.
yeah, and that's
Agape love is something completely different.
yeah, and that's a good point too. Is that the English language is so limited
Mhm.
compared to some of the older languages that could be a little more uh, expressive in
Yeah,
how
I mean,
they
those are
said
really
things.
different. There's a much different feeling that I have with you than I do with a friend that's not romantic.
Well, I hope so.
But at this point, right now, there's no romantic feeling towards you.
This is 27 years. That's worked on that.
Yeah, it's 20. Gosh, wow, 27, yeah.
Oh,
27 and a
man.
half.
Do you see that regret flash across her face? Oh, 27 years. It felt like 50. But we continue on.
Anyways,
Ugh.
yeah, so, I mean, they're very different. It's I almost think I know where we're at Valentine's Day, and that's where people's minds go,
Yeah.
but romance is not the same thing as love. But some people will say that. They think that's the love when people are saying love is the most
Well, and
important thing, and that's not the love.
that's not the love what we learned
That's
it to
not
be.
what we're
And that's
talking about.
another good point on this problem of love and the problem we're dealing with is a lot of times we define what it is because of what our culture tells us. So when we go and read books, the books my mom likes to read, Lust in the Dust with Fabio on the cover, or you go to movies and you watch The Notebook, or something like that, where
Mhm.
it's this romanticized version of what love is and this passionate, oh wow, look at the chemistry between, geez, you can feel the sparks flying off these two.
Yeah.
And that's what we end up saying, oh, okay, I guess that's what love is.
Mhm.
Because that's what we're being told what love is from our media.
Just like everything else where they're telling us what we're supposed to look like, what we're supposed to
Yeah.
act like, how we're supposed to relate with one
So,
another. They're telling us what love looks like.
and that is impossible standard to live up to because eventually it just gets exhausting to constantly be doing that. Just imagine if we continue to act the same way we did when we were 18 towards each other.
I'm trying to even think what we act like
You
at
know,
18.
when I gave you the roses every time we went out, and
Yeah.
it was just just the constant,
You're wooing
yeah,
to have
the
to woo
constant
constantly.
woo and all that.
Yeah.
Just imagine if we had to do that for the last 27 years.
No, but you still want
You still want
you
it
will
from time
still
to time. It's
you need
just,
to sprinkle it in a
yeah,
relationship for
it's
sure.
it's not the constant that it
No.
was back then
No.
either. You grow past
Because you're
that.
not trying to get it now. Now you have it, you're trying to keep it
Yeah,
by being you want to keep that relationship like the romance part there, then you have to do these
yeah,
things. If you don't care about the romance and you just like a very platonic like marriage, that's your prerogative too.
that's my
Talk with your
prerogative.
partner though, because you might have two different ideas. You need to talk that through.
Yeah. So, I mean, so yeah, we have an idea of what this is, and then it makes people think that that's what it's going to be. You're married for 30 years. This is what it's going to look like.
Mhm.
And it's like, I wouldn't bank on that. There'd be sprinkles of that throughout, but
Mm.
there's also something that's much deeper and much more valuable and much more beneficial and
It's
enjoyable.
more, yeah, it's
I
less
see from your face you were like, no, no, I
no,
need more
like yes.
sprinkles.
I could take some more sprinkles, I will say that. But well, whatever. We've already had those conversations. I have to like be like, come on with the romance, buddy, sometimes. Because you just need a little kick every once in a while and the tush on that area. But I have my things that I need to be reminded that, you'd like.
Yeah, but that's part of the love.
That is. And communication is a
Yeah,
big part of it. But the the relationship becomes at 27 years, having deconstructed, having now an attitude of you can leave at any time. You are free to
yeah.
leave me. I am free to leave you. Um, Divorce is on the table always. It's always an option.
There's no issues at the moment, folks. Don't worry. But she just want to let you know that it is on the
Because
table.
one reason that we do that is when you're dating, it's always an option that you can leave. So you
Yeah,
stay because you want to. And when you're married, I've heard so many people say they stayed because of the legality of being married, right?
yeah.
Which
Or it's the
in the early stages of marriage, if you really want a long marriage, it might be good to have that as a barrier to keep you from running.
yeah,
So now it's not so easy to just get out like you were in dating. It's not so easy. You can't just like I don't want to see her anymore or whatever,
Yeah.
Now it's a little more difficult. You got to go get a lawyer or whatever you got to do. I don't know what you do if you're divorced. So it's just involves more and it's expensive. So at the beginning, for the first few years, that this is for people. I think the only reason I would do that is because marriage, people do go into it, I think, wanting to grow old together. That's the
Hmm.
goal, right? Eventually, we will be old, we will still be together, we will still love one another. But so many people go from dating, and this is why, what was it? I kissed
Kiss
who
purity goodbye.
Josh Harris, yeah, he is
Or
deconstructed
he,
from
yeah, he
like
kissed dating
he feels
goodbye.
really awful. I mean, he was doing what he thought was right in light of eternity,
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, he in there it was almost like no kissing,
Yeah.
no because you wanted to keep that so
No front hugs.
yeah, we know people who did that and I mean
They're
and a lot
happy.
of the the famous the Duggars, I
Yeah.
think that's kind of like how they do things. Can't
Yeah.
remember why I mentioned that. What was I talking about right before that?
You were talking about dating.
Oh, they go from dating where you can easily, and this is one of the arguments against dating, is what I was going to say. From these like people like Josh Harris. I never read Josh Harris's book. I heard of it. But we I think had already gotten married. It was right around that
Yeah.
time. And basically it was like not even dating because dating you courted instead. Like
Hmm.
you're only picking somebody because you literally think you're going to marry them. But that was in my head when I was dating, so that must have been taught. I was always thinking, is this guy a prospect that I'm interested in long term? It
Yeah.
was never like, I never dated anybody with thinking this is just for fun. It was always like, is this guy a possible person I would want to spend my life with? And so it was pretty easy to go, yep, nope. So, I mean, there was a plus to that, I guess, because I was only looking, I guess it just depended on what you're looking for.
Yeah.
People date to have fun or they date to find out what they like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't
And
ever date like that, so I don't.
it's kind of tough. I mean, we went from somewhere not going into the romantic and went into the Eros. But when you think
Eros
about,
is romantic, honey.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You mean you from agape?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
well,
that's right. That's what we do. Um,
we'll wrap back around.
with the dating, it's when people don't do the dating and they just do the courtship, as was being told,
Hmm.
you really don't get to know some of the idiosyncrasies of people and the little things that make them tick or the little things that will annoy you eventually. So then when you first get married, you see him maybe as, oh, that's a cute little quirk. Look at that. He doesn't unroll his socks when he throws them in the hamper. What a guy. Well, that's so cute. And then about a year or two later, it's like this motherfucker constantly make touch his sweaty ass socks and pull them apart. Fucking them not
That's
washing
your
his
son.
socks for 2 weeks.
That's your youngest son.
So, but dating gets rid of some of that stuff where you understand, so if you're in a dating
Okay,
period
you're
and
saying
you
that
get,
dating does that, but how does I'm just going to push back a little bit because I'm trying to understand here. Does courting not do the same thing as dating? It just narrows in very quickly
it's,
because there may be a benefit to
and
courting.
I'm
I don't
thinking
know.
more of the dating, of modern dating where you date and then you move in together and then you get married.
Mhm.
So you understand some of the things that people can hide in courting
Okay,
or don't
true.
get shown because you don't think about saying, hey, I fart in my sleep all the time. And then when you're married, all of a sudden you're sleeping there the first night and hear, and you're like, what the? Oh man, no, no, kill me now. And you're like, I can't, no, this isn't good. This isn't good. We're going to have to find
Marriage is
something.
over. What?
So, you know what I mean? So you hit
Yeah.
these things that you don't see if you just court and you don't do the full date and move
Yes,
in,
you're not.
live together. Because when you're living together and you're not married, you still have that option that's a lot easier than when you've been married for a few years and have a couple kids and all this
Mhm,
bullshit,
mhm.
where you can be like, this isn't working out.
So you're
Your
kind of
ass stinks. I'm tired of smelling it in the middle
okay. If
of the
someone
night.
breaks up with someone over that, it's a little ridiculous. But
Hey, there's no wear thing. So
let's say that so you're basically saying that you need to live together before you get married.
I think that's one of the benefits of it is that you kind of understand the other person, and it gives you that test run of okay,
See, I've always thought, and I don't think there's a problem. I think there's some benefits to living together before you get
yeah,
married. But then because I've kind of tossed this around in my head, but our wedding was so fun because, or the start of our marriage was so fun because it was all brand new.
yeah,
Like we had never lived together, we had never spent
yeah,
a
and-
night all together. I
yeah,
mean, kind of, but never in bed together ever.
yeah,
We'd never done any of that stuff together. We'd never
yeah, and that's
I mean, so you don't get that, but I guess you do get it when you move in together,
yeah,
right?
yeah. You get
But
that,
then you have that experience with so many different people.
yeah, but it's also kind of like you said earlier. You're exploring what you can put up with, what you can deal, what you can understand.
Okay, so maybe the rule now should be I'm trying to legislate now
Well,
that in order to get married, because marriage is like legally binding, you
yeah,
can't do it till you've lived together for so long. Then you can make the decision as to do I really want to
yeah,
stay with this person? That might not be a bad way. You'd have way less divorces
yeah,
if
because
you did
you start
that.
to learn the little things about
Yeah,
people
you
that
have to
might
live
annoy.
together for a few years before you can get
Yeah,
married.
can we work through this type stuff? All right, this is really irritating the hell out of me. Can we work through this?
Mhm.
Your cricket feet are bothering the hell out of me at night. So let's work through this. They don't. Don't worry,
I
they
feel like this is personal.
don't. You're full of energy. It's cool. I'm good with it. So I've been able to deal and live and enjoy life with you rubbing your feet at night. So
I
it's
know.
good.
Who is it? One of the kids that just doesn't like, "Why are you moving their feet?" I can't help it. It helps me warm up or something.
So, but yeah, you get to see some of them things in there before. And if you think, I'm trying to remember when we've talked about biblical marriage and actually biblical time marriage, it wasn't Joseph and Mary weren't married technically yet,
No, they were betrothed.
betrothed. So there was this trial period where they were betrothed to each other. And I don't know
What
if
does that look like?
I
Yeah.
don't know offhand. I'm curious if it was all right.
I don't think they wouldn't have had sex,
No,
right? Or would they have? I have no
I
idea,
don't.
actually.
I don't know. It'd be something to
I'll
look
look it
into.
up.
We'll have to. I'll call Dan later tonight and see.
Dan McClellan?
Yeah, I got him on speed dial.
You
Me,
wish. Sorry.
me and him go way back.
Yeah.
But no, it'd be interesting to see what it was actually like back then. If there was some sort of trial period, lack of better words,
Mhm.
that was more. It probably was more legally binding than what dating today would be, where you could just kind of amicably say, "This isn't working out. Let's move out. If we have a house, we're selling it."
Yeah, you could easily split things off because I don't know.
So I think there's a benefit to it. I understand that you're going to miss out on some of the stuff that the Christians are always like, you got the great present to unwrap that night, each other.
Uh,
Yeah. So that's a story for another day. We'll need a few beers in us that night when we go into that. But you don't get that, but you actually do get it in the dating period when you first move in.
mhm.
And you might get it multiple times. Um, yeah, who knows? And is that a bad thing if you do? I don't know. Not necessarily. I
It
mean,
could cause a lot of that can cause pain too,
it could on one
but
side
you're
or another.
not
But honestly, if you're in that mindset anyways, is it going to cause a ton of pain? You kind of have to expect it, right?
I mean, marriage going in it doesn't matter. You go into marriage, you don't know how long that partner is gonna live. You
Yeah.
don't know you're gonna have pain. Relationships have that there's a potential for pain and likelihood for pain. And it's part of the process of a
Yeah.
marriage is pain because pain changes us. Like if I see you hurt over something, well, then it might make me change my behavior or
Yeah.
change how I view something because it's hurting you or vice versa. See?
Yeah.
So, I guess, I mean, living together, okay. So, I
So, I
mean,
mean, it is.
then all the things I think of, oh, you wouldn't have those as new. those would be more reserved for, or you would have them when you move in together.
Yeah.
The new.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
going to
know.
be a newness somewhere in it.
Yeah.
So it's not just completely, held by the purity culture.
Hmm.
It's like, well, no, we just experienced it before we put rings on. We had ding ding before the ring.
No ding ding without the wedding
So,
ring.
um, so yeah, that's kind of the romantic thing, I guess, on there. And the brotherly thing, as you've seen, that's being exhibited now by the church and everything else. It's not, most people outside the church aren't going to see that as loving. And I think that's what the Bible was talking about, was you want the outside world to look in and be like, wow, that's impressive. That's loving. That is a loving
Well,
environment in there that
yeah, and
really goes out and it just encompasses
if you
its
think about the
community.
early church, the things that were said about it was people were trying to sneak in to see how
Yeah.
free they were.
And
This was a place that was known as they were super free there. Now, wipe the powder off your nose.
don't worry about that, folks. That's my nasal clearer. It's not
So
drugs.
it's one of those
it's
little
a
boom boom sticks.
yeah. So it clears out the nasal
Which I saw
passages.
somebody doing a TikTok for that, right? And they hold it up and it was like mirrored. So it said mood mood. And it was like, oh, isn't this fitting for now? But
I'm just doing it for you people, so you don't hear a nasally guy.
yeah, we thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you buy new ones or is that the one I gave
That's
you?
the one you gave me still.
So you like it?
I snort on it every now. I take a tug, a rip, a bump. So
Okay, stop saying terms. Okay, what were we talking about?
the church and how it appears to the outside, or
Yeah,
you
like
want to.
nobody's sneaking. Absolutely nobody.
And
Even Christians are not saying it's so free in the church.
we were taught that. I remember hearing it from the pulpit. People should be curious
Yeah.
and envious of what's going on inside this building. And you know what never happened? There wasn't a group of people walked in and been like, "What is happening in here,
This
folks?
is amazing.
This wow."
Unless they were already knew it was Christians or they were being loved bombed.
Mm-hmm.
Someone come in, everybody's like, oh, being all this fake guys.
Well,
Everybody knows the greeters. Remember, they would hire, quote unquote, they were volunteers
the extroverts
to be greeters. Yeah. And I would have loved that job.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just say hello to people, you help them find things. And
Yeah,
that would have been a great job.
Katie from a couple weeks ago would have been a great greeter at a church.
Yeah, she would have. Yes, exactly.
Love everybody that comes in.
So they would pick somebody like her and put them at the front. They're really friendly already. They know how to do that light, fluffy talk too, make people feel welcome. They're warm. They have a warm presence. Bring them in, and then that doesn't keep happening. I mean, you'll still get the greeting when you come in. Those people will always be there doing that same thing each week, right? But it's not an in-depth connection.
No.
It's a superficial connection, unless you get to know those people on the side more. That's different. But some sort of different situation would have to come in. Like maybe you fall at the front door and they help you get up and they spend time sitting with you. That's a whole different thing, right? But mostly it's just, hello, come in. And that is how people might think, oh, they're so friendly that first time or so, or at the beginning,
but it's not even
initial phase of romance, just like we were talking there too. Like you're being romanced.
But the way I always taught that teaching was, it wasn't the front door thing. It was people on the outside of the church saw something that was coming out of the church. So people driving by on the Holy Highway here.
Yeah, nobody.
Or the people that
like
were
an atheist would not go, I gotta know how free it is in there.
Yeah, the people
freedom.
that went across the street to the restaurant our kids work at for brunch, and the waitresses and waiters were like, "Wow, this is an impressive group. I need to get a piece of that."
Yeah,
that's not what's happening.
Well,
we just can ask our kids.
Well, no, I will say that people like in evangelicalism, non-denominational, whatever, full gospel, so many different names we call it. I always wondered, I was like, what kind of Christian are we? Once I realized there was kinds, I was like, I don't know what kind we are. Yeah. So when I say Christian and people would say, what kind? I was like, we believe the Bible. That's what I would say.
You're not kind as a Christian.
I don't know. I'm not ready to say broad statements like that. But the the no, I lost my train of
What
thought.
kind of Christians you are.
Not knowing what kind of Christian you are.
I was talking about going out. I'll give another example. We shop in the mornings on Sundays, so we avoid the Christians because
Our washer's going crazy if you can hear it.
they're awful to deal with a lot of times in public, in the wild, especially right when they get out of church, because they tend to be a little more grumpy and haughty.
Yeah, they are. And not all of them. Definitely
No,
not all of them. But you can tell that these people have gone to church and they're rude. They just shove in front of you. They're just not courteous,
yeah,
but it is also known that they go to restaurants and
don't tip.
poorly tip, if tip. Yeah.
They might give a uh,
Tract.
track.
Calvin's gotten some of those. Yeah.
So, but and that's what well, that was what the teaching always told me was that's how they're going to know who you are. And well, that's true. We know who you are. You guys treat people rudely outside of your
Okay.
group
All right.
and
Right. Right.
all
Let's
this.
stop here for a second.
Okay, let me hit the button.
When we were Christians, and I'm just being honest, I'm not trying to puff myself up here, but I definitely feel like I loved and cared for people. Like you
did.
could bend me. Like I
Valentine's Day.
you could bend my heart. Like if I was talking to somebody who was, let's say a transgender man or something, if he was explaining to me his life and how he got to where he was, I would listen and I would be conflicted inside. I wouldn't know what to
Yeah.
do. I wouldn't just go, nope,
Yeah,
sorry.
but you had a true understanding of love. And
Somewhat maybe,
and
because
granted,
I probably did not always do
a
that.
lot of what I've said here is very broad
It
about the
is.
Christian faith, but I'm talking about the generalization of what it appears.
I'm not trying to be broad. I'm just trying to generalize here.
But there are exemptions to the rule.
Or is it a rule, or is there certain types of Christianity that are
I think if you were to
because like
talk
Orthodox Christians, Eastern Orthodox and stuff like that, Western Orthodox, I don't know.
We're dealing with the evangelical type mainly because
that's what we know. That's all we know. We can only talk from our perspective.
Just from experience, we can see it. The ones that, like we said, that are
actually, we do know
Sam's Club.
Catholics that think like this
Yeah,
too.
and Catholics do that. Sam's Club that would push us out of the way.
Yeah.
Or they won't let you get into the sample cart because them and all their kids are feeding for the day.
What?
At Sam's Club.
Oh yeah, they do stop for the meal. The kid was like, "This is their lunch." I'm pretty sure.
Our kids talking about how they were treated by these people that had come in after church brunches and stuff like this. And I've put posts out here, and many people have commented about them being a waitress or a waiter in a restaurant, and they're like, "Yeah, it's true. The worst days to work are Sunday mornings after church service because you're not getting anything for tips, and they're going to be rude and demanding."
It's a known thing that they just didn't want to work on those days.
That's what I'm kind of talking about. This is
would sometimes,
whether they're good people or not inside the faith. This is the image that's out and given to them because that's what's been earned by their behavior. This is also talking to that lesson.
Did you say behavior?
Behavior. Valentine's Day.
You can't just say Valentine's Day after every flip.
So
that's our new, like, if someone says something that we got to edit. Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. So, but that's what's been earned from how they've acted. And that's what people associate with Christians now. And it's for the people that are actually the decent ones that go out. Like when we went out to restaurants on a Sunday, we left a really good tip.
Yeah. And that's what brought up that thought. Like, we gave that because we want to show that we were loving. Like we cared about you just simply because you're human. You actually helped us today by serving us. And so we would want to tip well.
Yeah. So, but we would have to fight against the image that we have out in the public to be like, this isn't all of us. We need to recapture this.
Yeah, we were the type of people that would be saying today, not all Christians.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you can say that all you want, but start policing your brethren then. Because there's other people out there besmirching your character.
Okay, all right. No, but just stop for a second. If we were evangelicals today and this was happening right now and we still believed like them.
Oh, you'd say we were being persecuted.
Or we were still Christians, but we didn't believe like them. We weren't for 47. We weren't for, you know what I'm saying? Because there are those Christians. I hear from them, so let's say we're that type of Christian, but we still believe Jesus died on the cross for our sins. Maybe we don't even believe in hell, because not all Christians believe in like an
Yeah.
eternal hell. They believe in what's
The ones that have studied.
the ones there's different. Yeah, that's true. I mean, like when we started studying this stuff and all the terms I had never heard. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like eschatology. Oh, what's that? That just
Yeah.
means end times, and all these different Calvinism and
Yeah.
Armenian and all these words. So we were, let's say you didn't vote for him. You notice the Christian nationalists are rising up. You can
Mhm.
see it. You can see what's happening. You think it's wrong. Maybe you're a Democrat, because we definitely got, you know, shocked by that one time when someone was a
Yeah.
Christian said they were Democrat. We're like, but what? That's not possible. But he definitely was. We had known him for a long time, him and his wife, and they were wonderful people, very loving, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed them. So, gosh, I keep losing my train of thought.
Valentine's Day. It works. See? It's a nice pause.
What was I saying, Dan?
You were on about this. You're trying to defend the people that are the good Christians.
Oh, I'm saying like we would have. I'm trying to defend them. I'm just saying, okay, we were in there. Let's say it's us. We would say not all Christians, because we wouldn't want people to think we were with them or on that side, right?
Yeah.
And then someone would say, just like you just said, then police your brothers. But we remember when we started to tell people in the Christian faith around us about different beliefs
Yeah.
that kind of went around what they thought was okay, we got kicked out, kind of, or not kicked out, it was
Deconstructed.
more shunned. So that's what's going to happen. You cannot stay in the Christian faith. You can't continue to call yourself a Christian without deconstructing. You
Yeah.
might still want to call yourself that name, but you will not be anything like Christian nationalists.
Yeah. You're going to be separatist from the group.
Yes. Somehow, yeah.
So you're going to be isolated from them, even though you may not want to be, or you think you may not want to be.
You're going to have to come up with a different word for yourself, because Christian has been tanked. I really think they can't call themselves. I mean, you can, but there's no way you're not going to get lumped in with them.
Yeah. You're going to have, yeah. So that's kind of the loving aspect from that perspective, right?
Mhm.
What we came from. And then we deconstructed and we started understanding something. And I think a lot of what we assigned our love to back then is we assigned it to an object, maybe, or not an object, but we had a misassignment of how we treated our love. It was about this God had to pour it out into us, and it had to be pushed out through that way. We were told we couldn't know what love was unless we knew God.
Oh, yeah.
So
I had that belief even stronger when I first started to deconstruct.
Yeah.
I would just say, I don't think you can know how to love unless you understand God's love. At that time, I probably would have thought you really needed to believe.
Yeah.
And in a way, there's probably a little bit of truth to that. I don't think, but now we understand God as we are one with. So if you can't self-love, if you don't know self-love, you have no love to give, because you don't have self-love. You do have it, but you don't recognize it. So then what you're giving out to people is not love, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Until you know how loved you are by yourself, then you can love others. You got to love self first, then you'll be able to. And real love, not just this fake love stuff.
And that's what we've learned in deconstruction is it had to switch. It was, you had to love yourself, like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And then the outpouring and the overflow of that is going to fall out into the world around you. Once you learned how to love yourself, then you can learn how to love your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
that's actually really deep if people will pause on it and think about it.
What you said, I just went deep?
You did. Okay.
Boom. Bat flip. Took you deep, son.
Valentine's Day.
Different connotation there.
Okay. Anyways,
Pervert.
Okay. You tell me to walk around with no pants on all day, and
Yeah,
you're not a perv.
that's romantic.
I make a joke about something you would have made. You're just mad and jealous because you didn't catch it, and I caught it.
Valentine's Day.
Stop using Valentine's Day as a band-aid for everything, okay? You're gonna get like we're gonna have disagreement. You'll just be like Valentine's Day. No, Dan, that's not how this is going, okay?
Anyways, Valentine's Day.
Okay, so back to self-love. So this is where we need to get the point. Now we need to get the point where we start defining what is love. What would you say love actually is? If you were going to put it in a sentence, you're going to define it in some way. It cannot be contained by words. It really can't.
No.
But at its bare bones, how could you describe it? We're going to have to describe it more than one sentence, but let's try to get some shape to it.
Well, it'd have to be many phrases to describe it. One is treating others like you'd want to be treated.
So love is equality for all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I mean, that goes to the biblical definition of love yourself,
right.
love your neighbor as you love yourself. So treat people like you want to be treated.
Okay. So what else is love? Is love
love is empathy and compassion.
Okay, empathy and compassion. Okay.
Experiencing your fellow man.
I would say it's unconditional acceptance.
Yeah.
You are unconditionally accepted. It doesn't mean you're unconditionally approved of or disapproved of or any of that. It's just saying you are included in the group unconditionally, but now there might be consequences for some of the things you do, obviously. This isn't about that. It's just you're one of us. Mm-hmm. You're not separate, right?
Yep.
You hurt, we hurt. Yep. So I would say it is full acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Sure.
So that would mean that none of us, this is how you can kind of understand this with a lot of the spiritual stuff we talk about oneness. I have to take I don't have to take.
Yeah.
I didn't do some of the actions of my ancestors. Probably. Maybe I did. Maybe we're reincarnating, right? So that's possible. But my past, I cannot change, right? The past it's over. There's nothing I can do about it, whether I did good or bad or whatever, or whether you did good or bad or whatever. But I can learn from it, yours and mine, if I'm wise. And where was I going with this? God damn it! Train of thought.
You're having issues tonight with this.
I know I am.
Get too many things going on in your head.
I just get started on one, and then other thoughts are clicking. This is when it's like, should I take ADHD medicine? But no. I don't want to right now. Okay, can you?
Valentine's
Day. Can you bring me back to it?
You were talking about oneness and
we can the full acceptance. We just accept we're all responsible, like where we're at with 47. We are, instead of saying this is your fault and this is your fault and this is your fault, we are all collectively responsible for this. And some people are like, no, I'm not. I don't want to take responsibility for that. I don't want to take responsibility for enslaving people. Okay? I do not want to take responsibility for that. Right? Do you?
No.
I mean, that feels really crappy when they say that, and then you feel responsible. But the thing is, you're not responsible for it. But you are responsible. You're not responsible for the past. You're responsible for what you do now and in the future. Don't perpetuate it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That shows that we're learning from the past. That is all of our past. We enslaved people as human beings, and we were enslaved as human beings. Why is the human race enslaving ourselves? Why are we doing that to each other? It would be like watching like animals do that to each other.
Yeah.
It's strange behavior, right? Because you're hurting not just yourself, you're hurting one another, and you're thinking that you're hurting the other and not yourself. Like when a person who was enslaving people, or an enslaver, I guess is what, I don't know, the words change all the time. It's hard to keep up. So an enslaver thinks that he's only hurting the enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
Enslaving another human being does a huge damage
Yeah.
to your psyche.
And-
Huge damage.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the oneness, because when you realize the oneness and that we're all part of one, we're all sections of this,
Mhm.
Then it gives you a different view on how to treat other people. Because then it's, if I hurt this person, I'm actually hurting myself,
Yeah.
because we're all part of the same thing.
And you can you can take this as just a small thing. Let's say I come up to you and I punch you in the face, right?
Mhm.
This anger comes up so strong, I hit you. Now you have physical pain. You also might even be dealing with, okay, my hand is not that hairy.
Valentine's Day.
Too bad I don't have like a huge arm to like go over. Okay, but let's say I punch you. Now you have physical pain, right?
Mhm.
Probably some emotional pain.
Mhm.
But now what instantly I'm going to feel is guilt and shame. If I have, if I'm tender enough still,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to feel shame. And what I'm going to do with that shame is either I'm going to cover it up by, well, it's his fault. He deserved it. He caused me to do it, right? I'm going to push
Mhm.
blame, or somebody else caused me to do it. That's one way of covering up shame so you don't have to feel it. Or I'm going to beat myself up and say I'm a terrible person, blah, 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 blah. And then I'll hurt myself even more. So see, I'm hurting myself either way,
Yeah.
because when I'm pointing the finger at other people, um, I'll never be at peace if I'm always blaming everybody else for how my life is or what I'm doing, what my actions are.
Yeah.
If I always do that, I'm always going to be at the mercy of every person's wish.
Yeah.
And that's people pleasing. And I lived it, and it's absolutely awful. It
Yeah.
really is. Because you don't even know who you are. I mean, we both have been people pleasers in our lives, and it's not a pleasant it sounds so light, but it's not. It's toxic to be a people pleaser.
Mm. It is.
It is very unhealthy for
It is.
people. But you do it. That's what fawning is. People pleasing is fawning. That's what it is. So it's a fight flight reaction. You're
Mhm.
not in the calm state. You are in an agitated state. And so in that agitated state, you learn behaviors to protect yourself. You're just staying in a state of constant protection over yourself. So imagine, someone's outside your house trying to break in.
Mhm.
How scary that would feel. Staying in that scared state constantly. Can you imagine how your nervous system
Yeah.
would feel? There's no letdown. You just keep going. That is what Christianity is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a way of explaining it.
Yeah.
That sounds so it's not free. It's not there's not any quality for all. It should be a very I would add that to love. It's I guess with full acceptance, it's complete freedom.
Yeah.
Complete freedom to be you,
Yeah.
not anybody else.
Yeah.
That's what you're free to do. If you try to be somebody else, or if you try to hurt somebody else, like affecting the oneness
Mhm.
in some way that's not healthy or happy or good, then there's consequences. You're not kicked out, but there are consequences. Maybe you go to jail if you try to steal, or you know what I'm saying? There has to be consequences to kind of keep you from hurting yourself and others.
Yeah.
But we don't need all these laws. We need very few laws. If we all thought like this,
Yeah.
think how few laws we would need.
Yeah.
Because most people would operate this way. But when you continually tell mankind that they are evil and wicked, and at the core they are terrible and they deserve hell, how do you expect them to act when they become adults?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's kind of a key, because probably start wrapping this up here. I think when you look at what we thought love was before, when we were in the faith, it was more of a tool of conformity. We will love as long as you conform to what we believe. And we're going to keep showing you our love by forcing you to conform to what we believe. Whereas now we realize I need to find out what I believe and love me for that, and let that pour out to let other people love themselves to find out what
Mhm.
they believe.
Well,
And then bring that together and understand that we are united in
yeah,
everything. We are
knowing that
one with everyone.
and this all goes back to judgment, which is eating from the tree of good and evil. And this is why
Mhm.
this is why the whole story is about don't live your life by don't find life in knowing of good and evil. You can know good and evil. There's nothing wrong with knowing good and evil.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you go to that for your life source, is like what's good and evil. If you It's okay to know the knowledge of good and evil is not the bad thing. That's not it. It's the knowledge of good and evil that we want written down.
Yeah.
Okay. If we want to write it down and we say, this is the law, those should be that's the problem. Because the law, it really is inside you. Like, you know how to be kind to people, and it might look different from person to person, but you don't treat people like crap. You treat them decently. You care for them. You figure out what they like and don't like, because some people like sarcasm and some people really don't like sarcasm. So you kind of shape yourself to be what in a way, like I can use my sarcasm here, but I don't use it here. And it
Mhm.
doesn't mean I'm myself here and I'm not loving myself here. It means I love myself so much I'm not defined by whether I'm sarcastic or not. I have a sarcastic attribute about me that I pull out sometimes, a character that I play. And then sometimes I put that character away and I want to be one that's not sarcastic. You know what I'm saying? Like you can be different characters and still
Mhm.
be you at the core. You at the core, your love, your just complete acceptance. And that comes through not judging, which is you have to stop judging by the letter and you have to judge by your heart. You have to listen to your heart. You have to stop listening to the writings that are written down in any spiritual arena. Okay. Some are true. The truth is mixed with lies all over out there. You have
Mhm.
to listen to your heart. You have a child that comes to you and tells you that, let's say they're a boy and they feel like they are a girl in their body. Someone who has no judgment written down anywhere, right? No Bible. There's looking at their child that they love and care about. They're gonna continue to love and they're gonna try to figure out whatever's happening. They're gonna figure it out with their kid, right?
Mhm.
They're gonna stick by them because there's no written law that's trying to control them. They listen to their own heart. That is a safe world to live in if we think like that. And that is what Jesus was teaching. Like, don't judge. He does say later, judge rightly, but he's talking about judge rightly. Notice whether this is considering, is this person talking about stuff that is inclusive and includes everybody and is equality for everybody, like, is he talking like that or is he not? And if he is, listen. If he's not, don't listen.
Mhm.
It's so simple, and that is a way you can live your life that um it's an easy guide. We have too many voices telling us what to believe and what not to believe, but really the stuff, it's in you. It's simple. You have a very simple guidance system that is just open to you trying all sorts of things because you're so loved, you're so accepted because you're part of source. That ain't going to ever change. No matter what you believe or do or think, you are never going to get separated from source. It's impossible because that's all that exists. So you're safe. Now, go out and experience things. Learn. You're going to learn consequence. If I put my hand on the stove, I'm going to get burnt. Okay. Just like a baby learns how the physical world works. It's the law that's causing our problem too. It's redefining love. It's changing it into something that it's not. Love is just like you said, equality, which you will naturally have empathy and compassion if you are thinking of everyone as yourself equal. Equality and oneness, probably. The equality exists because of oneness. So I think oneness is probably how you would define love. It just means you have to look at all of us. Everything is one.
Mhm.
How would you feel about that definition? Is it too out there for people?
No, I think it's something to wrap their heads around, kind of get and understand.
I mean,
Because
if you had to define it, you have to. If you had to go to the very very core, because there's so much. Love looks different, it sounds different, it feels different to different people. There is no way to define it. It is other than it's just a oneness that is all there is.
Mhm. Yep. So, yeah, let's wrap her up on that. So yeah, experience your Valentine's Day. Have it as fun as you want. Understand love.
Consenting amongst all involved, please. Understand oneness, yes.
Yes. So remember to check us out on danandcan.com. Get everything related to Drop Stones on there, a Transform Life podcast, and to sign up for hypnotherapy on there. So danandcan.com is a good place to go and look that up. 5 stars if you love us and want to show the love of the world for us. 5 stars. If you don't love us, 4 stars. And the love will not be reciprocated back to you.
No, that's not exactly what we talked about at all. We'll
We
still
will not love you.
We can't not love you. If love is oneness, you can't really not love somebody. You just are one with them.
Well, if they give me 4 stars, then I'm going to be upset.
You can be upset. That's a consequence that they can have is you're mad at them.
No love.
They don't want to make you mad.
No love. You don't want to make me mad. You don't want to see me mad.
I've only seen you mad. Maybe it's been very few.
Yeah.
I've seen grouchy.
I'm grouchy.
Mad, like angry. It's been a handful of times.
Yeah, it's been a handful.
It's been a while since I've seen that side too.
Valentine's Day.
Directed at me? That's been a really long time, but I've seen it directed at others.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. Better hobby.
Check it all out. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. Have a lovely day. And
whether you celebrate or not.
Yeah, it don't matter.
No.
If you want to hear about what we think about that, go back to last year's, years before, whatever. We talked about it. So it's no point in bringing up old memory.
Well, some people never go back and listen. I don't always listen to old.
If you want to, go ahead and listen to it because, it's got this thing.
Is the sound good?
It's great. So, that being said, remember,
you could listen to us.
We know a little bit of shit.
Bye.
Bye.